Hi everyone, here we are again. There was some technical issues apparently, can always happen. You don't know with connection and everything going on. So we were talking about women and empowerment. I'm gonna get Samantha back on our live so we can. We were speaking about energy and how it affects women and empowerment right now. So here we are
Back.
again. Yeah, welcome. So sorry. I don't know what happened. It just
That
completely.
happens. It's life, divine
Yeah,
timing. We'll figure it
exactly.
out.
So we were talking. Yeah, exactly. So we were speaking about the energy right now, women and empowerment and everything going on, and it is actually the uncertainty and going with the flow, let's say,
Yes.
because everything that is happening nowadays is like very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's with a little
Right.
bit pandemic crisis, everything going on. Maybe before we dive in a little bit deeper in the energy, it's maybe for our audience also important to talk about retrogrades and what it means, because I'm aware about it a little bit. You are a master in it, you're a pro, but maybe there are people in the viewers that don't know what it means.
Sure.
So if you can enlighten them a little bit, then it will be
Absolutely.
easier for them as well.
Sure. So retrogrades happen when it looks like the planet is moving backwards in the sky. And
Hmm.
usually it just moves a couple degrees, but for faster moving planets, such as Mercury, which we hear a lot about Mercury retrogrades, it'll move quickly. And this is why I think a lot of the time people kind of freak out a little bit and they're like, oh no, there's another retrograde. But this is actually a great time, especially if you have retrograde planets in your chart. So if you, for example, have a Mercury retrograde during the time that you were born, and now there's a Mercury retrograde going on in the sky, instead of you planning during this time, because it's so comfortable and this is literally where your natal chart is, it's actually a place of action for you. So I think that's commonly misunderstood, and it always surprises me when I go into sessions and I talk about this. People are like, "What? This is when I could have been doing action stuff. This is when I could have been getting stuff done. That's what I was feeling." But everyone told me, I shouldn't do it because it
Really?
was retrograde, right? So if you have it in your planetary chart, it's a really great action time. But a retrograde in itself, when the planet is moving backwards degrees, what you need to be working on is, because retrograde starts with REs, we just kind of take that and put it into a bunch of different words. And so we focus on everything that has RE in it, like redo, rethink, reevaluate, replan, relax. And we say that one twice, relax, relax. Because it is a time where, although the energy is slowing down, the transitions themselves feel a lot more intense. And this can happen if it's not a retrograde planet for you in your natal chart. It can feel very off balance. It can feel like you're not really in your comfort zone or at home, and feels kind of weird, like there's a lot of speed bumps going on. Um,
Yeah.
and the two that we have coming up that are super important are the Uranus Taurus retrograde and the Mars Aries retrograde, which we haven't really talked about. That one will be a little bit shorter, the Aries Mars. That'll be starting on September 9th all the way up until November 13th. And
Okay.
smack dab in the middle, we do have a Mercury retrograde as well as a solar eclipse. So
Wow.
lots
Yeah.
going on.
We have a
We've
lot
had
going on.
four, yes, we've had
Exactly.
4 Mercury retrogrades this year, which it's usually about 3 or 4, but we've had 4 this year. We've had 6 different eclipses, 4 lunar and 2 solar,
Yeah,
and we've
exactly.
just had a lot of transitions here.
And
So go ahead, go ahead.
And we also have like 13 full moons this year, right? No, and in October, the last one, it's like the blue moon. So you have two full moons on 1 month, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I
So
believe so. And we also had huge Cancer energy. We had a double new moon in Cancer, which was very rare as well.
yeah,
And that sparked a lot of, it was kind of the opposite of what we did at Christmas of last year. Last year in Christmas, we were in the sun sign of Capricorn, and we had a huge lunar eclipse in the sign of Cancer. And then in summer, we sort of switched that. We were in the sun sign of Cancer and had a huge lunar eclipse in
that's
Capricorn. So it's kind of like a
everything
weird
is shifting.
balancing act. Yeah, you're reevaluating, and not only did they switch, but they're actually polar opposites. So if you go and look at the astrology zodiac chart and the wheel, you can actually see that they are complete opposites. Capricorn being the fatherly figure, very serious, very strict and authoritative, and Cancer being this watery, motherly kind of gentle energy. And so we had to have a lot of interesting conversations, and some challenging, with our head and our heart to see, do we agree with this? How do we want to move forward? What is our structure going to look like?
Exactly. So with everything now, because you say the astrology and the personal and transformation coaching that you're doing, it's for 9+ years. What made you go in that direction? Because you can choose a lot of things, but this is a very specific thing. Why did you choose to do this?
Well, I started 9 years ago because of my son, which in my book is, I did a dedication to him that he will always be the angel that saved me. He was born on 11/11/11.
Oh no.
A week early. And so I thought that was like so unplanned. I didn't even really know what to say. Like 11/11/11. Whenever I tell people at the dentist too, like, oh, when's your son's birthday? 11/11/11. Oh, that's so cool. So it's such a crazy response that I get. So I keep having these notifications. But it's a crazy response that I get, and that was kind of the response that I had when I had him, was, oh my gosh, this must be an angel message or something, because I don't know why was he born on this day. So I did a little bit of research into numerology, and I had a mentor for quite some time with astrology, and so I just sort of started to dive into it a little bit and do research here and there and study it. And simultaneously, I was also teaching at the time. I was a school teacher for quite some time as well. So I started to sort of see it and observe it. And I taught at a lot of private schools. You can't actually integrate it. But it did give me a lot of creative freedom, because I would start to observe and see things, and even really pair my students in the groups according to their zodiac sign, to either challenge them to work with people that they would normally not get along with at all, or have them be something productive, and have them be able to work in a group where they can learn and listen to different ideas. And as teachers, I think we just sort of pair students according to whatever they like or dislike, or who they work together best, or who's their friends, etc. But for me, it was the initial, okay, well, what is this going to look like if I put certain zodiac signs together? So it was very interesting, and I think that's when I sort of went full-fledged into it, was this last year. Teaching in Hawaii was a beautiful, beautiful experience. I taught in California previously, but Hawaii was definitely at the top of the list there. And then with COVID coming, I think I maybe intuitively knew that something was going to be off, and so I actually started my business before I stopped teaching. And by the end of the school year, they said, we don't know if we're going to be able to rehire you. And that was okay with me. I sort of took that leap of faith and said, all right, I'm going for it. We're just going to do the things, and I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. And I think that that's another huge tip that I would give people is, we often talk about perfectionists, and this has to be perfect before I release it because whatever, right? But if you spend so much time perfecting something, what you're actually doing is procrastinating, because you're scared. You're afraid to release it. You're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of people being in charge of your self-worth and your self-value. And so I think that would probably be the best tip that I could give in terms of my own leap of faith, was to stop trying to perfect things and to just do it, to just go for it. I mean, it's so simple as, typing out something in your notes and taking a picture and screenshotting it. And that was something that I've recently learned, and my partner actually showed that to me based off of this article from this super cool, really famous entrepreneur guy. So I'm like, okay, great. We're going to self-teach here. And you really have to just find something that you're passionate about and get motivated and just do it.
Yeah. It's exactly, it's that simple, and it's out of your comfort zone. You have to come out of your comfort zone. When you stay in there like, it's new, I don't know what's coming, I don't know what will happen, and you don't take that leap of faith, you will sit there and you will stay there. And it's actually coming out of the comfort zone, and it's like 1, 2, 3, and just jump and just do your thing and follow your heart and your intuition in that as well. But I can also understand, with everything that is going on nowadays, it is very difficult to take that leap of faith, because you don't know where you're gonna end. You don't know where you're gonna end up, and that's just very yeah, scary, I think, for a lot of people. So, but then during the whole pandemic and the lockdown, you created your own business. You started everything right now. And
I did.
astrology, that's something that was, yeah, I think before the birth of your son, also a topic for you, or it's something that has been in your life for quite a while, or is it, how did you came in touch with astrology? Was it only then or before?
Um, I think, that's a really great question. I had my son almost 9 years ago. He'll be 9 November. And I think that I sort of always knew that I was connected to something else. I don't know that it was, oh, I know I'm connected to astrology, or I know I'm connected to numerology, but it was an unknowing, it was a silent unknowing.
Something unconscious, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
a subconscious or intellectual extension of my intuition or something. I don't know. But when I was 9 years old, I actually had my first experience with shadow figures and hearing voices. And I think that that is something that's not really talked about anymore because it's very taboo of like, oh, you're hearing voices. Like, that's, not great.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of learning that that voice that we hear, that inner voice in our mind is actually ourself. It's our soul. And our self comes into this world already balanced. What we're working on balancing is our actual ego. And that is, where our feelings come in. It's where our decision making comes in. It's where our self doubt comes in, etc. And so, if we're able to kind of focus on what the message itself is, and not freaking ourselves out as like, oh my God, there's this weird voice that's talking to me. I have no idea what it's saying. Then we kind of put ourselves in a different, more open, a more vulnerable mindset. And I think that if you can do this properly, I'm going to say properly, just because
Okay.
there is that kind of, I guess, you could dip into the darkness if you really wanted to. And I think that if you can stay on that high vibration, that positive vibration of just being open to accepting the fact that it could possibly happen to you, and to not get freaked out in the moment. I mean, it's definitely not something to play around with, but if you can intake those things and say, if a word comes into your head and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. When I was 9, I was getting out of the shower, and in the living room, I could hear 3 people talking to me.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I went out in there, it was these shadow figures that I could only see from the waist up. And they were from like the 1700s or something. One of the men had a top hat, the other one had a beautiful gown, and they were just whispering. And I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I think that was my very first encounter of, I think I'm here for a higher purpose. I think, there's something else going on here that I need to pay attention to. And when I had my son, that's when I really revisited everything.
Well, yeah, with the 11, 11, 11. But
Yeah.
that you're thinking at that moment in time, you're 9 years old, you're standing there, like there must be something more in life, instead of being like terrified, like what's going on right now. That is
Oh,
also a sign, I think, because the normal reaction would be like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. I think I'm sick. I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things.
yeah.
And to just be aware of that and go with it as well, to go with that flow and just experience it, I think that's pretty awesome to do, because a lot of people would shut it down, build walls, and just push it away. Because in a way, I think, like you put it before the screen froze, you put it like very well. We are humans and we are spiritual, but we forget that the being spiritual is something that was there before humanity.
Right.
We
Exactly.
are all spiritual, and I think nowadays, because of the unknown, I think, or because there's a taboo around it, or because you cannot measure it, I also think that's a very important thing as well. We're gonna shove it away, and we have something like, no, we cannot measure it, it's not black and white, it's not a science, it's not proven, so why should we work with it? And I think with the whole shift and all the energy that's going around now, we are coming back to how, let's say, back to basics, back to humanity, back to our core, back to ourselves, let's say. And I think that's a very important thing, and a very important shift that we as humans needed to take. Not only humans, but globally, nature wise, everything going on. I think it was very essential to go through this. So that's so awesome that you followed your gut feeling it, and astrology, everything, you learn so much, and yeah, you know, like a lot. That's just amazing. For the people tuning in and our viewers, if you have like any questions, feel free to ask them about women and empowerment, or you have any specific question for Samantha or about astrology, shoot, we are here, and we gladly love to answer your questions. So if we speak more about the topic, women and empowerment, how do you see it now globally? What is your experience with it? And yeah, maybe a difference in Hawaii, and yeah, there
Sure.
will be a difference, I assume.
Yeah, so I'm going to break that down into two separate questions because I think they're both great. Women empowerment in general and what we can expect
Yeah.
from that. And then women empowerment in Hawaii, I guess.
Okay.
So in general, and there were moments where, you know, when I heard these voices or saw these shadow figures, I was kind of freaked out. I was like, oh my God, what the heck is this?
Exactly.
But, you know, when you talk about the measurement of things, I think that if we put together all of the different scientific measurements, we'd actually have a huge, big picture of, oh, this stuff is totally normal. This stuff happens every day, all the time. I mean, let's take your pineal gland, for example. There's a big thing going on right now, and I don't know if you've heard of it with DMT, a DMT trip. Okay, so there's, have you heard of ayahuasca?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so ayahuasca is pretty much the same thing as DMT, but it takes a very short amount of time. DMT takes about 15 minutes, ayahuasca takes 2 days. So this is kind of like a spiritual, mental, hallucinogenic trip that you go on. However, both of the substances, both in DMT and ayahuasca, are actually substances and chemicals that are found in our brain already.
In your brain, all right.
And so it comes from the pineal gland. And this is a chemical that is released when we have dreams and also at our time of death. And so I think it's really interesting that if we look at that, just that by itself, that study, when we release these drips from our pineal gland of this chemical and we encounter things like shadow figures or we hear people, would that not be an extension of our dream world in our waking life? That would be the first question I would pose. Okay.
That's a good question.
Secondly, there was a study, and I want to say it was done at Princeton. It was done at a very prestigious, maybe even Oxford, very prestigious college around 9/11. And during 9/11, we had, you know, a terrible terrorist attack with the Twin Towers and such. But 4 hours, don't ask me why it was 4. I have no idea. This is where divine timing comes in. So 4 hours before the planes hit the Twin Towers, before they even came in here to the United States, there was a machine that was built by a woman, and I can't remember her name. It's slipping me at this point. But she went to her professor and said, you know, I would like to do this as my thesis. And he said, well, great, but you can't do it until you prove it. So you have to prove it first. So she said, okay, all right, I'll do it. So she built this machine based off of the randomness of numbers. And her professor loved it so much that they ended up dedicating an entire college wing to it.
Oh, wow.
So they had this huge machine based off the randomness of numbers. And basically the thesis was, if you think about one number repeating itself over and over and over in your mind, you can actually change how random the numbers in this machine get. So if I were to go in there and think about the number 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, it might not pop up as 5, but the number order will become less random. And if you add a group of people in there, which the study was done with, it becomes even less random. So 4 hours before the Twin Towers were hit, these numbers started to become less random, and they started to actually create some sort of coding. And that was based off of the energetic molecules that were being released from right before this happened. So, and in astrology and numerology, when we look at the number 4, we look at home and family, and also structure and stability, the way that it's built, right? So when we write a number 4, there's all these fine edges that are just, you know, very held up.
You have a balance.
So I don't know what the theory would be with the 4 hours before it, but I think that would kind of play a part in the question of what do we do with women empowerment. I mean, if you're somebody who's going through these, you know, different natural changes or these growing pains or these growth spurts and your different, you know, ways that you accentuate your natural gifts, I would say, number 1, don't be afraid. Number 2, be open to the idea. And number 3, do your own research, because a lot of this is scientifically proven. It's just not something that's been put out there on a large scale, such as commercials, things that are ingrained in our mind already, things that tell us that these things are bad. We shouldn't do anything with them. The second part of that, I would say, would be in terms of Hawaii and women empowerment. Women in Hawaii, I found, are very, very strong. They're very determined and very dedicated people. And I think it really encompasses a lot of beauty and a lot of culture and a lot of just anything and everything natural. I think that a lot of that was taken when they were forced to become a state in the United States. I think that, when their queen was captured and they were pushed into this, sign the treaty and you'll be a state, or, we're not gonna help you anymore.
Oh, wow.
Your queen back, right? So there's a lot of history that I think a lot of maybe tourists don't know about, or even people in the world, in terms of the culture. And so I think that the biggest thing that I've taken away from being here and being on this island is, one, being welcomed and using warmth and love and light to be able to greet people. And I mean, we call, any man that we see on the street here as an elder, we call them uncle, and same with, the women, we call them auntie. Hi auntie, how are you? We could not know them at all, but that's how you address them. And it's a very kind of warm, welcoming, formal way to say, I'm giving you respect. I'm acknowledging your presence and your soul and your spirit. And I want to make sure that that is being, I'm being forthcoming with my respect here. I don't mean any harm or disrespect. And so that culture has really stayed, I think, really powerful and potent. And I think that the biggest takeaway from this is the power and the determination to keep things as natural and as it was back in history before we became part of the States, 50 plus years ago, to just kind of keep that tradition and keep that sort of essence, if you will, a part of Hawaii. And I see that all the time with people going fishing and people diving and just, getting right in there. And
that's awesome. So it's actually like a little community, and traditions kept alive. And are there then like special traditions for women as well, or not per se?
Probably hula, and I know that I know that people take a lot of pride in the hula. If you let's say in the United States or anywhere else, really, I mean, there's a certain sport that like really goes with whatever that culture is. People are really hands-on when it comes to football or soccer or baseball or polo or whatever, right? So I think that that's kind of what it is here, and I think that it's something to take pride in. I know that singing, anything that involves like beauty, creativity, and happiness is really just their total vibe here. And I think, again, coming back to anything natural, making, baskets with the leaves from the trees here. I mean, it's just, the whole culture is very interesting to me. And I'm still acquainting myself with it and getting used to the different kind of, or even level of love that's given here.
Oh, wow. That sounds so awesome. So you came from another place and then you moved to Hawaii? May I ask
I came
why?
from California. Yeah, so I lived in California for 24 years, and I moved over here as a single mom with my son.
Oh, wow.
I told my boss in California 2 months before I moved here, hey, I quit. And she was like, oh, okay. And I said, yeah, I'm moving to Hawaii. And she goes, oh, well,
my.
She goes, do you have a job? And I said, no. And she said, do you have a place to live? And I said, no.
Oh,
and
my.
She said, do you have, friends out there or family?
No.
So she was like, okay, I guess congratulations, do your thing, girl. And literally a month out before I got out here, a month after that, I'd applied to so many teaching jobs. It was ridiculous. And I accepted a job. I didn't even know where it was. I just knew it was school, and I wanted to teach there. So I got up to the job, and it turns out when I had originally come here to visit, I had actually gone to that same exact school, not knowing when I accepted the job what school it was. And so when I came here on island, it was boom, like literally divine timing of like, hey, you've gotten accepted at this one school that you went to visit previously. There was no one there for me to talk to. I had no idea that this was that school. And my son got to go there, and I found a place to live, and it was just a really beautiful way that the energy lined up, and it was all about trust in myself. It was a super big leap of faith for me, saying like, I'm not afraid. If I go over here with my son, I'm gonna have to, you know, gain the responsibility. I'm gonna have to take care of business. And right now, I'm learning how to let go and not feel so anxious and stressed out about that, because I know that I've gotten this far in my life, so I'm not gonna fall now. Pretty much was my mindset.
Why was your preference Hawaii? Why of all places? Because you could have chosen like any place on this planet, but why Hawaii?
I think that, well, one of my mentors was out here when I originally moved. And two, I kind of like my experience when I was 9 years old with the shadow figures. I had these places in my mind that I wanted to go when I was older. I didn't know why. I didn't know what the connection was. I just wanted to go. And a couple of those places are Barcelona, Hawaii, Beijing, and Ireland. Okay?
All right.
So
okay.
those are all my places. They're so random. Like there's no connection between
There's
any of them. But there
just...
probably is. You know, subconsciously there probably is.
Yeah.
So my thing about moving here is I was probably, you know, a descendant of a Hawaiian in a previous lifetime, or maybe I was here already in a simultaneous dimension. I don't know. I haven't really researched that, but it's a warm place to be. It's small. It's little. It's very quaint and just homey and comfortable. And I wanted to explore. I'd been out here twice previously, and I decided to make the jump.
Wow, but what? Yeah. Speaking about a leap of faith and a life-changing decision, how old was your son at the time?
Oh, he was 7.5, 8. He was about 7 when I made the decision. So I planned for a whole year while I was teaching, and then basically dedicated that year to saving up money and applying for jobs and, you know, talking to people within the school districts here. But yeah, big.
Wow, awesome. Really awesome. So, and if we speak about, because you're a mother as well, and you have a beautiful son, if we speak about women and empowerment, how do you apply it in parenting? How do you teach him about women and empowerment? Because I see you as a strong, independent woman, and you know your direction, you know where you're heading to. How do you parent him and teach him about women and empowerment?
First of all, thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. I try to carry myself as powerfully as I can. But, you know, my son, I was a single mom for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And so he was raised by myself. When I had him, I was 17 years old. And he was raised by myself and my mom and my dad, who were extreme examples of what it means to be supportive, and as well as my dad's partner. And so he was raised really around all these women with a strong frame of what a male figure should be. And so I think he learned a lot of, you know, you just don't treat women like this. You know, he would say to me, even in superhero movies, you know, when the villain would come up and, you know, do something, he would yell at somebody or say something not very nice, and he would say, he would pause, he would go and take the remote, he would pause the TV, and he would look at me and say, "Mommy, that's not how you talk to women, is it?"
Oh, wow.
No, that's not how you talk to women. So I think he just kind of picked up on it. And I think because of the personas and our own values, mm-hmm. he sort of picked up on what it meant to treat women correctly. Now that he's with his dad in California, which they, you know, recently reunited, it's been really nice for him to understand, okay, how does a man treat a woman? It's one thing to know how to treat a woman, but how does a man do that?
Yeah,
because that's something that's often, you know, especially in our society today, if you're a man or a boy or a young adolescent man, that you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to show vulnerability, you're supposed to be this hard, you know, macho, kind
you have to be
authoritative, controlling figure, right?
Exactly.
You know, and that's not, that I think we need to shy away from that. I think that there's so much power in learning how to be vulnerable, because it's not easy to cry in front of you. You know, if you cry in front of other people, you know, you're really showing a lot of power. You're saying, I'm able to be open and vulnerable with you right now. I'm not worried about judgments. I'm just worried about my own self and my health. You know, I need to be able to keep this healthy release. And that's super strong. So I think that, you know, just being raised that way and learning those different ins and outs of, you know, how women should be treated, and how women should be treated by a man is really important to kind of uplift the generation that we have coming up now. I mean, to be really positive leaders and to make that transition.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. That's so true. And it's also so powerful that you say like he was surrounded with a lot of important people who
Mm-hmm.
value the way you wanted to raise him. I think that's also very important. And now I hope it's so nice to hear that he's reunited with his father as well, and to
Yeah.
see how a male is approaching a female. I think that's also very essential, and it's also very true what you're saying nowadays. A man has to be, they have to be tough, they have to like no emotion, they have to handle everything. And I see it with my clients as well, because I work a lot about love and relationships, attachment
Yeah.
styles, connections. And I see the shift between male and female as well, because a male is falling in love with a woman nowadays, but she's strong and independent, taking care of him, of herself. And the
Absolutely.
man doesn't know how to approach that woman anymore.
Yes.
They're like, what can I offer her? What can I say to her? What is appealing to that kind of woman? And a
Mm-hmm.
woman is like also searching for the softer spot in a male, like,
Yes.
in what kind of way can this man give me something essential, because I can provide for myself, I can stand
Right.
my ground. What is the benefit for me dating this man or having a relationship with that man? So
Mm-hmm.
everything around it is also shifting. So I love it when you say, like with my son, I try to raise him in that kind of way as well. I think it is very essential to teach our children very young, like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're a girl or if you're a boy, feelings are
Yes.
feelings and you can
Mm-hmm.
express them. And it is very strong and very courageous to be vulnerable. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is so important nowadays, to just being able to express your feelings around that. um,
Absolutely. I think even, as a mom or a single mom or as parents, co-parenting, I think it's a huge leap of faith to be able to say, I'm going to let my kids just, explore whatever they need to explore. I mean, especially having a boy and saying, I'm not going to be afraid of judgment if my son is seen playing with dolls. Like that's a really big deal. It's a big thing
exactly,
for people to be like, oh, that's so weird. Like, why is your child playing with dolls as a boy? You should be
exactly.
playing with cars and trains. But it's that leap of faith that you take as parents, saying, I'm going to allow my child to explore, because I know no matter what, they will find themselves, because I'm a good parent and I'm going to guide them the best way, to my best ability and the best way I know how. And I think that that's a really important, very powerful step, especially for single moms, but parents in general. I mean, it just adds to the whole kind of cycle.
Yeah, and I think in parenting, that's also a point that you mentioned, is having the faith that they will find their own way. It's not because
Yes.
you have a picture perfect about childhood, about raising a kid, or even a picture perfect about how your son or your daughter should be.
Right.
It will change. And if you want them to be like a doctor, the chances are that they don't want to be a doctor. So you have to have a leap of faith in that as well, and
Yeah.
just trust the journey and let them explore, and let them give them the tools, like you say, like with your son, I gave them the tools. This
Right.
is how you treat women.
Yeah.
This is how you show respect, and then have the faith in it that everything will work out. I think that is very important. Um, so if you're going back to the healing part and the transformation and everything that you were talking about before, you said also something about the healing part. Are there tools that you can say to people right now listening, like, okay, I bump into some traumas, I find it difficult with some energies that I'm feeling. Are there some tools that you say, like, yeah, you can try this at home, or you can do this? Obviously they can contact you afterwards, they can send you a direct message, inform you, everything, that's also
Absolutely.
possible. But are there things that they can start doing on their own already to heal and to, yeah, go with the flow, let's say?
Absolutely. So I would say two things. One, the main point is to change your Akashic records and to change the trajectory of your karma. And one of the most potent ways that we can do this is by using a natural substance, water. Okay, so we all have molecules and atoms floating around us and within us. And if we, and we quite frequently do this, if you, stay hydrated, you're moisturizing your body, you're flushing out toxins, things like that. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're staying hydrated. You are flushing out toxins. But more importantly, you're able to, the more water you intake at a healthy level, you're able to actually positively manipulate the water molecules within your body.
Yeah.
And this can be, both with your past and with your present and with your future. And I think the main goal is to learn how to live in the present. I think that a lot of the times when we go back to traumas or painful memories or even just happy memories, what we do is we align our physical being in this timeline, but our spiritual and mental and emotional are totally checked out. And that's what people say when, that's what they mean when they say, don't get stuck in the past, because that's what you're doing. You're getting stuck here. And you can do the same thing when you want to move forward. I think that one thing to be mindful of is when you set a goal for yourself and you meet the goal, to live in the moment of that goal, to actually celebrate the moment, to give yourself room and flexibility to be proud of the accomplishment that you have, and to just let that settle for a minute. Because quite often we meet a goal and then we're like, okay, great, what's the next goal?
Exactly.
We don't live in that for a little while. So I think if you can learn how to positively manipulate your water molecules into whatever it is that you wish, hope, or desire, and then actually becoming the wish, hope, and desire because you're putting yourself at that level that says, I do deserve this. I do desire this, and therefore I've worked hard and it's mine now. I feel like I can appreciate myself at this level, and as long as you're not making it an attachment to your happiness, but rather adding to your happiness, that's your golden. So that, is a great way to flush out toxins, taking baths, taking showers, crying it out in the shower, having that healthy release, and those breakthrough moments. The other thing I would say is being really gentle with your daily routine. Yes, people have responsibilities. Yes, people have families they have to provide for. And also, you need to make sure that you're healthy, because if you're not healthy and happy, nobody around you is going to be healthy and happy. So taking the time for yourself, learning how to mother yourself, which is a huge thing that we had with all of this cancer energy. We had a double new moon in Cancer. We had the eclipse in Cancer last Christmas. And then we had a Mercury retrograde in Cancer, right? So during this time, because Cancer is the ruler of the moon, it's also the ruler of the mother. So a lot of us were learning how to nurture and mother ourselves. And this takes place, when we think about a mother, we think about someone who works 1 to 3 jobs, who goes to the grocery store after work, who puts all the food on the table. By the end of the day, it's 9:30 and you don't have a lot of time to yourself, right? So learning again how to mother yourself and reactivating that part within yourself, because our sun sign represents our child and also our parents. And if we're only the child or only the parents, we don't have that fun in-between balance where we can actually relax. So I think just being gentle with your daily routine, giving yourself that time, staying hydrated, and having the deep conversations that feel uncomfortable with yourself. If you cry about something and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so painful, and I just can't think about it anymore. Well, I understand that. And also, you're pushing it under the rug. What you're doing is not healing through the process, but saying, I can't deal with it right now. And what that is a breakdown. It's not a breakthrough anymore. So when you break through, it's important that you follow through with the conversation of, hey, was this actually the problem, or was there a different route to the issue? How are you feeling right now? Who made you feel this way, or did you make yourself feel this way? Did you set yourself up for an impossible goal? What's really going on here? And being able to have that gentle conversation with yourself so that you can walk yourself through a healing process. And which is one of the main reasons that I don't call, the people that come to me, I don't call them my clients. I call them my self-healers, because that's really what you guys are doing, is you're healing yourselves. Exactly. I am here to walk you through and guide you and provide tools and tips, but really you're the one who does all that hard work for yourself, right? So making that an accomplishment, making it something to feel proud of, when you hit those different goals, it might seem small to some other people, but it was really hard for you. So that's a self-important moment, right?
Exactly. It's a combination of being brutally honest with yourself, but also being satisfied with the goals that you achieve. And I recognize that part as well. Like you mentioned, to do things and to be perfect, you put your bar here, you reach your goal, and before you reach your goal, you put the bar even higher. So there's no satisfaction level, and you're always like running and chasing goals, but you're never coming home to yourself, like feeling that kind of belonging and coming home. And I think that's very important. But also what you're saying, like a mother, you're juggling and you're doing a lot of things, and especially when you're a single mother, you have to manage everything on your own, but you're also setting an example towards your kid at that time. And I think that's also very important. What is an example you want to give to the world and to your children? And I think that's also very essential to think about, and to be brutally honest. with yourself. That's not something a lot of people do. And what you say with the coaching, that's exactly the way I see it as well. I coach people, and it's like sometimes 1 hour a week. Yeah, I'm here, and I will help you, and I will offer tools, and I will have listening ear, and I will guide you. But
Right.
the majority of the work is done by yourself. You have to go through the trauma. You will have to go through the patterns. You will have to break them. It's not for
Right.
us to do it. We can advise, we can listen, we can guide, but
Right.
the hard work is done by yourself. And I think that is also very yeah, very rewarding to know and to give back to people. I
Right.
don't know, I see a lot of people coming and going. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions about women and empowerment, or about astrology for Samantha, or about trauma healing and everything, feel free, shoot, we are still here. Is there anything more that you want to say, like about women and empowerment? Maybe how it was for you to be a young girl growing up. How did you experience all those things? Because that's a very difficult period. Being a girl, everything is changing. You're not a kid, you're not a teenager or not an adult yet. How was your experience in that kind of area? And did you have like an image, like that is what I want to be, or an example of a woman in your life, like she was my role model?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, when we talk about the correlation between the human realm and astrology itself, we talk about your personal planets, which are your sun, your moon, and your rising sign, or your ascending sign. And your ascending sign is a lot of what you've mastered, but unfortunately you were not able to fulfill all of the karma within that area. And so it's a standalone unit that works by itself, in coordination with the sun and the moon. And your ascendant or your rising is actually who you take on from birth until you hit 35. So 35 years old is actually when you sink into your sun sign. So most people, if not all people, go through a lot of lessons and a lot of triggers and traumas and abandonment issues, as young people, as young children, and even in their younger adult years. And it's because you're trying to learn these lessons and work on these things that maybe you weren't able to complete in another lifetime. So there are a bunch of things that are filled at that point. For me personally, it was really a story about how to conquer bullying. When I went to school, first of all, I'm adopted. And I went to a private Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I was too brown. I was too brown to be there. And it was just, it was something that I had to learn how to kind of get over. It was pushed at me in very subtle ways. I was fortunate enough to never, get my head dunked into a toilet or shoved into a garbage can or locker or anything like that. But it was a lot of exclusion. It was a lot of me feeling abandoned, and a lot of me feeling like I had made friends and then they kind of played me and didn't want to hang out anymore. And so it was even, it even came through with volleyball coaches. I applied to do volleyball, and I was with it for like 5 or 6 years. But I was always the last to get played, or I was ever played. And it was because I wasn't a part of the volleyball club team that, all the other parents could either afford or would push their kids to be in. And because I wasn't, of elite status, I was the last to get played, or I didn't get played at all. And so it was me trying to find my way into a group, and me getting totally rejected. And I had to learn what that felt like. And I was like, okay, all right, graduating 8th grade, I'm going to go into high school, and I'm going to just become a new person. So I went into high school, and I ended up becoming pregnant. And when I went to the school that I was in, I was too white.
Oh, no.
I was too white. I was too white to be in the school. And it was full of just so many Latina and Asian and Indian and, people with darker skin than me. And even though I'm both white and brown, there was the two element. You're too this or you're too that. And, even though I am brown, I was looked at as too white because my parents now had too much money for me to fit into this school. Whereas before it was they didn't have enough money. So I couldn't win, and I felt like I was in this push and pull battle. And when I went to college, I was kind of just done. And I think I did shut down a little bit, where I was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to focus on my studies. I'm done with this, to put it very bluntly. I'm done with the bullshit. I don't want to deal with it anymore. It doesn't make me feel good. And I had to learn how to find my voice. And I found some somewhat of a balance with it in college where, you know, I put things on social media that I felt very powerful about. But my rising sign makes it hard for me to accept criticism in a way that I want to be liked by people and I want to like other people. And that is a lower vibration of one of my ascending signs. And it's something that I have to learn how to work through. And that comes at the price of, you know, me not wanting to be on social media for 4 to 5 years and not talk at all. Because I just I didn't feel like people were listening to me, and maybe that was caused by my manifesting my own self-doubt. So now I'm at a place where I feel like, you know what, no, I am going to be me, and people are going to like me or they're not going to like me, and I have to learn how to adapt my environment and even my own internal structure to the words of Abraham Lincoln of, you can please all the people some of the time, you can please some of the people all the time, but you can never please all the people all the time.
All the
So
time. No.
you just got to be you, and you got to accept that this is who you are, that you're beautiful, you're strong, you're empowered, and you are worth it. Your voice does matter, and it only takes one person to listen to you.
Exactly.
So if you can find that one person and continue on building your self-worth and your self-love, which in turn builds your self-value system, then you're golden. That's when you figure out, oh, I am my own structure. I can be totally me, and I can love it.
Yeah, but the road that you took, the journey from the whole school and then high school is just the opposite. First to brown, then to white, and just don't feel a sense of belonging, and especially on that in that kind of age, when you're like hitting puberty and you want to belong somewhere, you want to join, you want to have friends, you want to belong to a group, you want to be all those things, but you don't have it. And then coming out of it stronger, saying like, okay, no, this is me. And also the thing that you say, I think a lot of people can relate with that, is like, everybody wants to be liked in some kind of way. And just being able to say to yourself, like, it is okay if people don't like me. It took me quite some time to say to myself, like, hey, Selina, you cannot make everybody happy. It's like the quote of Steve Jobs: if you want to make everybody happy, you should go and sell ice cream. And it's something that I kept playing in my mind over and over again when I got like a comment or something. Okay, you cannot please everyone. But I think it's also a phase in your life. You need to have the experience of life as well. But I can imagine when you're 16 or 17, you don't have the same experience, and you're not going to say like, hey, it's okay if I don't please you. And to come out of it like you did, very strong and confident, like, this is me, here I am, and placing yourself, taking your space again. I really love the story. So it's really awesome. It's so strong and so vulnerable. Also, you sharing this here right now, I didn't know that. So thank you very much for that. It's very inspiring. Did you have like a woman standing beside you during that phase? Was there some kind of role model that you said like, wow, she is like, yeah, really a role model. I look up to her, and if I can be like her when I grow up, that would be like pretty awesome.
You know, it was an interesting experience. I think growing up as an adopted child, which I'm sure many can relate to, and for many, this is a new experience to hear about. I think that, you know, we all have our challenges with our own parents. But I think, you know, my mom, she's an Aquarius, and
me as well.
You're an Aquarius as well, yeah. So Aquariuses are very good at attracting money. They're very good at putting money to the side and calculating where it needs to go. They're very dedicated, and they definitely know how to climb the ladder. Aquariuses are tied with Scorpios as the most elected U.S. presidents. So they definitely have a rapport with people. They definitely know how to relate to people and talk on their level, match their body language, match their tone, all of the above. And that can be looked at as very superficial or fake or surface level. And I think that that is the attitude that I had towards my mom for a very long time. But I realized as I grew, because I'm an earth sign, I'm a Virgo, and I realized that as I grew, that's absolutely not what's going on. She just knows how to play the system very well, and she's good at it. And she wasn't being manipulative or deceiving or, you know, sketchy or any of that. It was just the way that my energy related to hers. And I think as I became an adult and more in my adult years, I really admired my mom. I mean, she bought a house when she was 25 years old, and, you know, she has this you know, how still to this day that she's been working on. She was at her job for almost 50 years, the same job. She was a vice principal, she was a counselor, she was a Spanish and French teacher, she was
Wow.
I mean, you name it, she did all of the above. And I think that was really a powerful experience for me, especially how level-headed her emotions were. Granted, she has a Capricorn moon, which is the least emotional sign in the zodiac. But you know, her ability to be able to be so scattered and have all these things going on, and also just stay very calm and level-headed, was amazing to me. Once I dove into the astrology and her chart, and just looking at all of her experience that kind of lined up. My mom is definitely a huge role model to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, her ability to adapt to new situations and environments, even when she doesn't agree with them, is very powerful to me. And I do aspire to be her in my own energetic way.
Oh, wow.
And she was definitely there as a support system for my son. You know, she wanted the best for me. She tried to give me the best in all areas of life, you know, taught me responsibility. She was a little bit of a pushover, which I think her and I disagreed on. I think I should have, you know, gotten in timeout a lot more than I did. But you know, she's an amazing woman, and I really have a lot of respect for my mom, and that's probably my biggest role model. I wasn't too into like famous people, and I'm still really not to this day.
No,
but
me
yeah,
neither,
close
but
to me, yeah, she was my person.
she sounds like an amazing woman. And if you speak about women and empowerment, I think she's a role model as well. If I hear you talk about her, it's awesome. And I understand what you're saying. Like, it doesn't have to be somebody famous. For me, it's also, you know, the people close by, or even sometimes a stranger that you meet, can really inspire you and can really trigger things in you that you think like, wow, this is exactly what I needed right now, you know? And that's what I love about life. It's like meeting people, meeting situations, and just meeting the things that you need in that moment. And that is like so awesome. So yeah, I can imagine if you're saying like she was my role model, and I had a lot. Also the Aquarius part that you say, like the playing and everything. I received those comments during my life as well, like you're not authentic or you're fake. And then I think I'm as authentic as I can be. I'm not any role or any part. This is just who I am. Take it or leave it, you know.
Right.
But apparently there's something, in an attitude or in a way that that people think that about you. And I find it really difficult as well, because then you tend to adapt and you tend to like, oh, they don't like me, I'm doing something wrong, like you're saying. And that's the difficult part for me, as a woman as well. You want to adapt, and that's something you don't have to do. Just stay true to yourself.
Right,
And
exactly.
I understand that part really well, what you're saying, if we're talking about Aquarius signs. So that's for sure. And with everything going on with the Cancer, my ascending is Cancer, so I feel the energy like very, very hard right now. So it's a very interesting combination as well. So yeah.
Well, what I can say for you is to keep doing what you're doing, and to not feel like you owe people things. When people gift you things or gift you their time or make dinner for you, you don't owe them anything except gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest thing for Cancer. Cancers have such huge hearts, you know. They just want to care for people and make sure everyone feels comfortable and safe.
Exactly. And then it's like, how can I reward? How can I do something back? That's that's going on. That's just spot on. So yeah, and I'm struggling with that as well. It's like, accepting a compliment, and like you're saying, you don't have to give back. You don't have to. You sometimes it's just okay to say thank you very much, be very grateful for what is, and just move on. And I think with everything and the energy going on, it's very recognizable. So that's and I think astrology wise, we can fill multiple lives. I think it's so interesting, very interesting. I don't know, we're almost heading to the end. I think we have like 7 or 8 more minutes. Time flew by. I don't know, is there anything more you wish to add about women empowerment? Is there a message that you want to give to the people watching right now?
I think my biggest message, and I was asked this question kind of in another interview, of if I could put a saying or a picture or a quote on a billboard, what would it be and why? And my answer to that was a tattoo that I have on my back, actually, that says, I paint my own reality.
Wow.
Paint my own reality is so powerful to me.
Exactly.
First of all, it's not about writing, it's not about typing, it's not about saying, it's about painting. And that means that you can make mistakes and go over it. You can learn lessons and move through it. You can paint with all different colors and it can be vibrant, and you can
It's
do it based
beautiful.
off of your emotions. And your reality is literally that. It's your reality and it's what you make of it. And that can have an extremely powerful domino effect on people around you. You know, when your energy changes, their energy changes. And it's, you know, it's something where whatever you deem impossible, whatever your dreams are that you don't think you can complete, you can absolutely complete them. You can absolutely complete
Yeah,
them.
that's so
And
true.
it just takes the trust in yourself. It takes your own self-motivation, and it takes not giving up. And I mean, just from the little bit that I've shared about my own life story and me reflecting back on, you know, where I came from and how I'm here now, I mean, it's incredible to me, and it's a lot for me to be proud of. And
Wow.
it was not an easy journey for me. I mean, single mom at 17, I mean, come on, like that's
No,
hard.
no,
You know, and
that
I
is really
graduated
hard.
high school a year early with straight A's. I went to college and I transferred to a bigger college. I got, you know, halfway done with my master's and my credentials before I decided, you know, I want to do this. But I did all those things while also being a mom, while also working 3 different jobs. I mean, it was pretty wild. And
Yeah,
if I can do it, you can do it, kind of thing, you know, like
exactly.
anybody can do this. I mean, like I
Exactly.
said, it just takes one voice to listen. So if you can keep powering through and keep sending your message through and speaking your truth, you can absolutely accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. You just have to believe it.
But I think it's also very powerful the way you speak about it, because the things that happened, they weren't easy. And I know a lot of people, you as well, perhaps, but people tend to keep it to themselves, to shove it away like it never happened. But you speak so openly about it. And I think it's like in a training, I met the quote, turn your mess into your message. From the moment you can embrace everything that happened to you, the good, the bad, everything in between, and you can learn out of it and you can really make it a part of yourself and own it, let's say, then
Absolutely.
you become free and it's not a burden anymore. And I love that
Right.
about you, the way you freely speak
Thank
about
you.
it, and you say like, hey, it wasn't easy, but also saying to yourself, hey, I'm proud of the journey. I am proud of the things that I've done. It was a hell of a job. Sorry for my language right now, but it was
Oh,
like
yeah.
really, really hard, but I am proud of who I am. And I think that is so important when you go to trauma and when you try to heal as well. That's what we were talking about, is to own it, to embrace it, but also have the guts to say to yourself, I did it. I survived it. I pulled through. I am standing here. Look at me. I was a single mother, but
Yeah.
look at my accomplishments. Look at what I did. And I think that is so so powerful. I really
Yeah. Thank you.
admire
I
that.
appreciate
No,
that.
truly. I mostly end the life with a question. If you could say one thing to your 13-year-old self, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a very emotional question.
Yeah, feel free. You don't have, if you say like, I don't want to dive into deep, that's
No,
also
no, 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 no.
if
This
you.
is absolutely okay. I think that the one phrase that I would say to myself is don't be afraid.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
be afraid anymore. I think that, you know, a lot of our trauma healing comes from childhood wounds. And I think that when we hold trauma so close to us, especially from younger years or especially even from childhood, that's a really, really unfair thing to do to yourself. And I'll tell you why. Because your 13-year-old self had no idea what knowledge you've gained now.
No,
So
that's
for
true.
you to, if you were to have like an out-of-body experience, and I was here talking to my 13-year-old self, my 13-year-old self is going to be responsible for what she knows in that moment, not what I know now as an adult. And so the fact that we continuously guilt trip ourselves and beat ourselves up and say you weren't good enough then, why did you make those stupid
Exactly.
choices then, and get mad at ourselves, you know, that's a really unfair thing to do, because we
Yeah.
can't hold our younger selves accountable for that, you
No.
know. And even, not to get into too much, but even, you know, I was married at one point. and I got divorced, and I'm with a beautiful partner now. But it took me 4 years to be celibate, to be single, to be just in my own energy. It took me 4 years. It was a very traumatizing experience.
I can understand.
And that's one thing that I had to learn, even though it wasn't from my childhood, just from my younger years. It was something that I had to learn how to speak about without crying. It was something I had to learn how to talk about without, feeling badly about myself. Like, why didn't you leave this person earlier? Or why did you allow them to do these things? Or maybe you could have helped in a different way, right? So it's the process that we go through, and that actual healing process of asking our questions. Is this actually a fair assumption? Is this a fair question?
Exactly. No, I see. We have 30 seconds remaining. So
no worries.
Thank you very much for your time. I know you had a busy schedule as well. I loved this conversation. If for everybody who tuned in, if you have like any questions for Samantha or for me after the live, leave them in the comments or send us a direct message. Thank you very much. Have a very nice day. And yeah, we will connect. That's for sure.
Sounds great. Yes, absolutely. All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.